fakes the one-timer. Now a shot, score, up goal, and Massachusetts takes the lead.
And that is right. Welcome into another episode of the NewMass Minute, postseason hockey in full swing. My name's Jay Burnham, voice of the Minutemen, alongside UMass alum, introducing to some of you for the first time, Colin Casey, part of our broadcast team, filling in for Nathan Strauss this week. Colin, good to see you. Thanks for taking the time, buddy. How you doing?
Good. Big shoes to fill, of course, Nathan Strauss. But yeah, great to be on, Jay. It's been a really great season for UMass hockey, of course, and a really big weekend of hockey, of course, this past weekend. Of course, not the result I'm sure that UMass was looking for, but it's been really awesome to see this team kind of take some major steps as the season has gone on, and still one more big step, of course, to take with the NCAA tournament right around the corner.
All right, before we get to this weekend, which was significant, give us some insight. Folks that might not know, you've been sort of a part of our broadcast team over the last several seasons after graduating here from UMass. Give us a snapshot as to who you are. You were on the call on Saturday in the overtime loss at BU. Who are you, and what your relationship is to UMass hockey?
Yeah, of course. I was fortunate enough to arrive at UMass in the fall of 2017, which was Greg Carvel's second year with the Minutemen, and that was kind of the year you started to see some real progress being made towards his NewMass culture. Of course, Kel McCarr came in the same year, Mitchell Chafee, John Leonard, Mario Ferraro, that huge group of freshmen that really started to kind of turn the tides with this program. In year two, my sophomore year, I was fortunate enough to be on the call for WMUA on the student radio side of things for their run to the Frozen Four in the national championship. Came up just short. Of course, they were well on their way to another deep run in 2020 when the pandemic hit my junior year. And then senior year was, of course, the culmination in year five with Carvel. They take the big step forward, make the NCAA tournament again, go all the way to Pittsburgh in the Frozen Four, beat St. Cloud State. So I was really fortunate enough to come to UMass at a time where really you saw the whole process of Minutemen hockey take full effect and culminated, of course, in the national championship, which I'm sure if you asked me when I first got there in 2017, if you told me that the Minutemen would win a national championship, I would have thought you were out of your mind. And sure enough, this is a team that, found its way to go from, a team that had been at the bottom of Hockey East for so long to national champions. It was just really cool to be able to be a part of the coverage.
Fortunate for you to be a part of all that, kind of hitting it at the right time, and then fortunate for us now you've carried on that broadcasting background to join us for some of these games. You were on the game on Saturday. Let's talk about this. UMass plays the first round of the Hockey East tournament against Vermont on Wednesday. By the way, UMass, as it sits right now as we're recording this, 11th in the pairwise, 16th in the NCAA rankings. 2-1 win over Vermont. Lucas Mercury and Ryan Lautenbach with goals. A nice one there from Lautenbach as he charged the net. They had trouble with Vermont earlier on in the season, if you remember. So this one at least had to feel good to get that one at home and get that W to advance to the quarters.
Yeah, it almost feels like the Catamounts were a team that is perfectly designed to go tit for tat with UMass hockey. They just played a really strong defensive game in all four of the games throughout the season. They got some good goaltending early on as well, and they got some good goaltending as well on Wednesday. But it was one of those games where all of the action took place in a concentrated area of time. It was like 3 minutes where all three goals came. Of course, you had O'Hara who threw the puck on net and Lautenbach tipped it home. Mercury tipped it home. And that's what Lucas Mercury does so well, is get to the front of the net, either be there for a rebound or get a stick on it, cause some problems for the goalie. And then Lautenbach, who came just booming down the left side of the ice. And I think you kind of forget about just how fast Ryan Lautenbach is as a skater with his play style being so physical. He can take that first step and turn around a D-man and get down the rink. So I was impressed, though, with how UMass didn't really panic after that goal from Vermont. They just made sure to shut things down defensively. It was a real, slog of a third period, but UMass found a way to win a game that they're not really accustomed to playing, a type of defensive game like that with their offensive scoring. They're a great defensive team, of course, but to be able to just kind of shut down the team throughout the third period, limit them to shots from the outside. And from what I can see, that was the first time all year UMass has won a game in which they scored 2 goals or less. So really impressive to see them kind of take a different path towards victory, but show Vermont that, look, we're willing to win any way we can at all costs. We're not going to let you get to the net. And I think they executed a game plan really well down the stretch.
And it sort of felt like, although kind of reading the tea leaves, maybe this wasn't on the line, but a win on Wednesday against Vermont puts you into the NCAA tournament. There's no if this happens or if that happens. It's you're fully in, and that's what it feels like now. You go to play BU on the road, a place that you played well earlier this season, had a split with Boston University in the regular season. 3-2 in overtime. I know there was a lot of heartaches and groans, a chance to go on and play in the Garden in the Final Four for Hockey East, but Suniev tied that one up with about 8 minutes to go in the third period. What were you thinking when you saw that goal, and how did that, I guess, third period unfold in your eyes?
Well, it certainly felt like that goal was a long time coming. And, the Minutemen have been such a great third period team since Greg Carvel's arrived on campus. And that's something they take a lot of pride in. And I think it was kind of building really from the jump of that period that they were going to find a way to tie that game up. BU was really limited offensively with their chances. And, Suniev had a moment earlier in the game where he had a 2-on-1, and you usually see Idar Suniev shoot the puck there. He tried to make the extra pass, and the Terriers made a great defensive play, led to an odd man rush the other way for Boumediene to put home to make it a 2-1 game at the time. So this time he gets the puck right in the slot, and he wasn't going to be passing that one, and he shouldn't be because he's got one of the best shots in the entire conference. He beat Yegorov with a glove side wrister. And you heard the roar, too, at Aganis. And that's been really impressive all year, is seeing the Minutemen fans travel so well. Cole Eiserman actually made a comment post-game after he scored the game winner and said he was really surprised with, how well the Minutemen traveled. And that's been the case since I was a freshman. UMass has got such a passionate hockey fan base. And to see them react to that Suniev goal, you felt that lift, and it seemed like they were well on their way to finding that next goal as well. Like they kept the pressure over the next 3-4 minutes after that goal, and then BU kind of evened out the chances towards the end of the third period. Michael Robel made a couple of big saves. There's some big block shots as well. And then overtime, we'll go into detail, I'm sure, with that. But
let me just say here, Musa was the guy that got the scoring going in that game. So just wanted to kind of bow tie that. He had 17 goals as it stands right now and 34 points this season. Suniev, who missed time, if you remember, with that injury, I think it was 5 games on the year. He's at 17 goals now and 35 points. So O'Hara, Suniev, Musa, I mean, really – racking up the tallies this season. I know Musa had said he wants to become a 20-goal scorer. So on the doorstep there, and then you get into the overtime, and let me just get the Carves quote here, because this really felt like you had a shot, and this is how it happens in OT sometimes. If you can't bank it in on your side, then it breaks out the other way. He said, quote, "I really liked our game tonight. I thought our team played outstanding. BU gets the early goal in the power play. It's a heck of a shot. We fought back from a goal down twice in the third period where things were downhill for us. And in overtime, we get 3 or 4 chances early. Then Yegorov, the kid, played extremely well. I think I said going into this game, the goaltending probably would decide the game. But it's those 3 or 4 chances early in OT that you really wish you had back to bank this one home and get a trip to the Garden."
Exactly. And that was 20 minutes of an overtime in about a 3-minute span, because there was so many opportunities on both sides for that game to end. And you kind of had the feel that this was going to be a quick overtime of the pace that those two teams were playing at, especially what you saw in the third period as well. Jack Musa got a great look. I think it was 25 seconds into the period. I think he didn't realize how much space he had. He probably, in hindsight's 2020, but if he had another second, might have been able to calculate that a little bit more instead of the one-timer on Yegorov, who made the save. And then Larry Keenan had a great wrist shot from up top. I don't know if it got Yegorov or not, but it got iron on the way by. Yeah. And the Minutemen, started to press from there. They knew they could smell an overtime winner. Yegorov makes another big save, and the rebound just finds one of the most dangerous goal scorers in college hockey up along the boards, in Cole Iserman, 2-on-1, and he's one of the few guys that can find a way to score from that left side wing, even with a pass option to the right. He's probably going to shoot that puck, and he slid it just under the pads of Michael Robel. So it was Greg Carvel on the radio show told us, remind him a lot of that Denver game last year where, it felt like we played well enough to win, and like a couple of things.
It's tilted one way. You're really pushing and pressure, and then it just something snaps and it breaks the other way. And it just, as you said, too, that you get the puck on the stick of one of the best goal scorers in the country. That certainly hurts. So, a tough way to end the tournament for Massachusetts, 3-2 to final against Boston University. We will talk about kind of what the next steps are here in a second, but I just want to go back and mention the 13-point consecutive game streak for Cole O'Hara came to an end at the regular season, but he picks up his 50th point in these contests on Wednesday against Vermont. 50 points. He becomes the second UMass hockey player in the D1 era, joining James Marcoux, to put up a 50-burger in a season. And he can match Marcoux, obviously, and surpass him. I mean, he's a Hobie. Hopefully he's a Hobie finalist. They'll announce those in the first week of April. But reaching that milestone, it's just such a big number to swallow.
And it's indicative of the leap he's taken this year, Jay. Another question I had asked Coach Carvel pregame yesterday was, has he seen a leap like that in his time at UMass between any of the guys that became all hockeys for selections? That list, of course, includes guys like Mitchell Chafee, John Leonard, who have carved out pretty solid professional careers, to say the very least. And he kind of compared it to Chafee's leap from freshman year to sophomore year. I think it was Chafee had about 24, 25 points his freshman year, which is impressive on its own. Came back at a 40-point season after that. But O'Hara, taking the leap all the way to a 50-point season, which has only been done now twice in the Division I era, and he equals Marcoux with the assist on Saturday. I mean, you just watch the guy, and the way he carries the puck into the attacking zone, it's so hard to get the puck off his stick. And that just creates so many opportunities when he's got the shot that he does. He can score from anywhere on the ice. He's got line mates in Mercury and Busa that are such scoring threats in front that he throws the puck on goal, and Busa's right there to put the rebound home, tie the game on Saturday. So the fact that he's just made so many leaps and bounds in every aspect of his game has just been something to behold. The great thing is he'll have a chance at that sole possession of that record in the NCAA tournament. Huh? And he's going to be an important player too. As the best players usually shine in the NCAA tournament. We saw Cale Makar shine in 2019 in that tournament. We saw the goaltending of Philip Lindbergh shine in 2021 when the Minutemen went all the way. So I think it's going to be a really, really important, the first line is going to really decide how far UMass is going to go, and of course goaltending as well. But Cole O'Hara has been one of the best players in college hockey all season long, and I really hope that the Hobie Baker committee includes him in that hat trick, because he's right up there, of course, with the numbers, but the proof is in the pudding. That is, watching him play. An eye test, it's hard to argue there's anyone that's more impactful in all of college hockey.
Yeah, if you took him off the team, what would it look like? And I think that's when I consider thinking about MVP type awards. What would the team look like without that player? That'll lead us into the Hockey East All-Stars. And I love the way Hockey East does this. They kind of send out the information over the course of the week to give guys their spotlight. The first team selection includes a lot of Boston College, as you might expect. Goaltender Jacob Fowler, Eamon Powell on the defensive line, Ryan Leonard, Gabe Perreault, Cole Hudson from BU also on that, and then Cole O'Hara to round out the first team selection. So we got that one right? Okay, you got that going for you. And then the addendum to this is Michael Raubel gets the third team selection and a third team All-Stars. And the UMass, Jill had mentioned this in the release, he's the first UMass goaltender to be a two-time All-Star in Hockey East. And I think that just goes to show the impact and the growth, of course, that he has had over the course of his career here.
Yeah, and you look at the two other players, at least when I looked, that have won Hockey East All-Star honors in his first 2 years at UMass. And the list is Cale Makar and Scott Morrow,
Not
and now
bad.
Michael Robel. So that's pretty darn good company for Robel, who has really come along strong in the second half of the season. And Greg Carvel's been pretty transparent, saying, we really expected a lot more out of him over the first 2 months of the season. And you saw him come back from World Juniors where he's shined in that regard. But it seems like every time he plays a huge game, it turns into just a huge snowball of momentum. Had that big victory against Providence back in November, and he turned that into a nice little run where he had a shutout against BU 4-0 at Aganis in December. Came back from break, had some really big games. He's just gotten better and better. And he's only 20 years old.
On the road, right? You mentioned that the shutout at BU, the win down at UConn, which is now in the finals or semifinals for Hockey East. They're going to the tournament for the first time in their career and their program's history. Winning, the toughness I think that this team has displayed on the road, and we'll see the NCAA tournament venues are Allentown, Fargo, Manchester, and Toledo. So probably not going to be close to here. Has hopefully will help them when they play in the NCAA tournament. Before we get to that, Hockey East semifinals and finals coming up this weekend. Unfortunately, UMass won't be in it. BC gets knocked off. They're
exactly.
out.
Yep.
And you've got this interesting foursome: Maine, UConn, Northeastern, BU. Who you got heading into the finals?
Well, the fun pick would be Northeastern, the 9 seed, which has never won Hockey East, the championship. And they played a tremendous hockey game at Connie Forum on Saturday night. I got a chance to listen to it on the way back from Boston. And, Cam Whitehead's a guy that can certainly steal you some games, but that's going to be quite the gauntlet to have to go through. They have the Maine Black Bears next, who have Alvin Boya in net, who's been incredible this year, and a number of huge stories, including Taylor McCarr, former Minuteman, who's done a really strong job. But I actually am going to go with UConn, and it's they just have been a team that I've kind of doubted for much of the season, thinking that eventually the momentum's going to slow down, and it just hasn't. Joey Muldowney's been incredible for them this year. Yep, Hudson Shandor, who was banged up during that Providence game and ends up scoring the tying goal to get UConn back in it. And then, Muldowney did his thing in the third period. And Tyler Muselik's done a really strong job in net. Mike Cavanaugh, what a coaching job he's done for the Huskies as well. Them and BU, that's going to be a tremendous battle against, two different styles of play. And, the Terriers, they played a strong game. You can't discount them as well with Jay Pandolfo behind the bench and the scoring of Quinn Hudson, Cole Iserman. You can really pick any of the four. I know Northeastern might be a little bit of a long shot, but they beat BC. They could beat anybody.
You take out BC, which I think everyone would have just chalked at some point. It's hard to go against the favorite. 4:00 on Thursday, UConn BU. 7:30 after that, Northeastern Maine, and then the finals will be on Nesson Plus at 7:30 on Friday night. All right. More hockey to be played for UMass. And I mentioned those venues: Allentown, Pennsylvania, Fargo, Manchester, New Hampshire, Toledo. UMass looking like a 3 seed as you see it. How does this play out for the Minutemen, and what would be their tournament game in the regionals on March 27th?
Well, of course, there's still a lot to decide, Jay, with, of course, the rest of conference tournaments to play out. And there's some auto bids that can really start to change and shake up the field. If a team like Northeastern pulls off the upset and wins their conference championship, if a team in the ECAC that's not Quinnipiac comes away with a conference championship, then that cut line moves. Good news is UMass, of course, doesn't have to worry about that anymore. But teams like Michigan, like Penn State, might be in a little bit of trouble. As far as the Minutemen, we expect them to be sent out probably away from Manchester, given the fact that there's so many Hockey East teams. And that's another thing that the committee has to factor in, is they really like to avoid conference matchups in the first round if possible. But you get 6 teams in already, potentially a 7th if Northeastern somehow pulls off the unthinkable. But the good news for UMass is you're starting to see what their regional might look like take shape. There's a good chance that they end up being that 11th or 12th team in pairwise, and they end up playing, one of the first 2 seeds that just misses the 1 seed, which of course is a challenge. But you look at what those matchups could be. Could be a team like Western Michigan that's been, incredible this year and year in and year out. Could be a rematch of a couple of years ago in Worcester as well. If BU, of course, if
you want to avoid that, obviously, as you mentioned, but
if they force it could the hand could be forced with how many teams are in there. But I think Minnesota could very well be a team that UMass faces in that first round. Be a nice little rematch to that game they had that went to overtime in 2022 in Worcester for the first round of that NCAA tournament. But the great thing is, when UMass has been so battle tested in hockey,
would Ohio State be in that department?
Or no? They, with the win they had, if they continue to roll and they beat Michigan State in that Big Ten championship boost in pairwise, they could maybe come into that picture. But I think they might be shaping up to be 2 seed at best. But the tail end of the 2 seeds. So because of matchups, it might be an instance where they get sent to Manchester or Allentown instead. But I think Minnesota would be a really fun matchup, as I was saying, for UMass, because they've had their struggles too. They lost to Notre Dame in the conference quarterfinals, and I think the Minutemen are a team that the Gophers could really struggle with matching up with their talent and their ability to crash the net, get pucks on goal.
I'm looking at it right now. They're 4th in the pairwise.
Yep.
It's BC, Michigan State, Maine, Minnesota, and then Western Michigan. So that would make sense, as you're saying, hey, you want to avoid the conference matchup. But with so many Hockey East teams in there, it's very difficult. And then you've got 2 teams, that you kind of fit that mold. Number 4, Minnesota. Number 5, Western Michigan.
Yeah,
it could really feel good about if you're UMass saying, hey, you can be competitive against these teams.
Yeah, and you can be competitive pretty much against anyone with, the way the season that Hockey East has had, if you're any of those teams coming from that conference, because you're as battle-tested as anyone throughout the country. And I think it's going to come down to kind of where Michigan, Western Michigan, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Western Michigan's going to slot in versus Minnesota. If they flip-flop, I think one plays UMass, the other ends up getting that 1 seed, plays a really strong 4 seed. Could be Quinnipiac, could be Penn State. Whatever regional that's going to be, I think whoever comes out of it has a really good chance of winning it all, because you're going to have to go through 2 really good teams no matter what seed you have.
Tough. Should be fun.
No question about it. It's always fun. Always fun.
So March 27th, there'll be the regionals, and then you got the 29th and 30th for the next round, then Frozen 4 into St. Louis on the 10th and 12th. We'll have to get you there if UMass is in it.
And they've just been a team that's been.
You might be doing baseball by that point, though.
That's true. Yeah, a lot going on, and that's
might not have a choice.
That's the great thing about March. You've got so much going on with college basketball, but college hockey too. On top of that, and I think
Let me ask this: if you think there's a first round, if there's a first round game that features 2 Hockey East teams against one another, if that does happen, who would it be?
Yeah, so I think the way you see it's not going to be Boston College, because they're slotted in to play essentially the winner of the Atlantic. By the way, Holy Cross Bentley, great to see another Massachusetts team locked into that spot. Bentley trying to get in for the first time ever. So they're going to be playing Bentley no matter what. Maine is in a good spot to also host a regional. So they're likely to face one of the other auto bid teams, or perhaps a Big Ten team that just sneaks in with an at-large. So I think you're looking at the group of UMass, Providence, UConn, BU. Any sort of combination there is probably the most likely to take place. And that likelihood would increase tenfold if Northeastern does find a way in, because, 7 teams, 16 teams total.
What a year.
Yeah, and they talked about the winning percentage of over 70%, 700 decimal percentage in a non-conference play. That's why Hockey East has such a strong record in pairwise, because when you do so well out of conference and you have so many teams that play well in conference on top of that, it's going to a rising tide raises all ships, and that's kind of what's happened here. But yeah, I would say the most likely scenario would be, an 8-versus-9 matchup between, UConn and BU, UConn and Providence. That's where I think you could very well see a Hockey East matchup. But yeah, can't rule out maybe UMass ends up seeing a team in the first round that they've seen plenty of and beaten this year, because they've beaten every team in Hockey East.
What a conundrum. I mean, a significant. If you're right, if Northeastern gets through, then you're just looking at a whole nother scenario for
all sorts of chaos.
Yeah, we love chaos in March.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, he is Colin Casey. He is UMass alum, hockey savant, and part of our broadcast team. He's been with us throughout the year. We appreciate you jumping on here, Colin, and good luck the rest of the way, partner.
Thank you. It's been great to see this team grow, and really appreciate the opportunity to keep Nathan Strauss's seat warm. I know he's over across the pond
somewhere. Yeah.
Yep. Hopefully not having too much fun, but it's going to be really fun to watch this UMass team go for another run for a national championship, something that has become, a regular occurrence now, and something that we didn't really see much of in the early stages of this program. Not the case anymore in Amherst.
Here. All right. We'll hope to see everybody at one of those regions or at a watch party. Stay tuned for details on that. He's Colin Casey. Till next time from Amherst. My name's Jay Burnham saying so long.